Alrighty, so just to recap what we have so far, we have a simple Webpack configuration file for our server with a target of node. We're building out our source maps. We have our entry file set into source server server. We have our output set into server in the build directory, which is this guy right here. We have resolve alias of shared so that we can access our shared code. And we have two module loaders, our Babel loader and our ESLint loader. We can test the ESLint loader real fast. If I go into source, server, and I do something that ESLint won't like using a variable that doesn't exist. So this isn't a JavaScript syntax error. This is perfectly valid JavaScript, but ESLint doesn't like that this doesn't exist. So let's come back here and let's type out our build again. So again, to build this with Webpack, with the locally installed Webpack, I do not recommend installing Webpack globally. We go into node modules, .bin, webpack, -- config, and then we do our server, webpack.server. Excuse me. Hit enter. And what's going to happen here is it failed because our ESLint loader realized that there was a problem. And as a result, neither of these files were emitted. Well, they were emitted, but we still got the error, and we still got a exit code of 1. So that's what we want. So let's go ahead and delete that. So again, we can run this Webpack server, and we can run node build server, and it just runs our code, and it just magically works. Again, the server.js will look a little scary. Webpack has a header that contains Webpack-specific code for the runtime, but you can kind of see the code inside of here. Like here's our server.js file, and then here's our awesome test shared file as well. So we can kind of see our code in here as well as the additional Webpack code. But we have a problem. And this problem is going to be unique to for the server. The problem is we are running this code in Node. Node has all of our Node modules that we get access to and we can load. However, Webpack doesn't really do that. Webpack is mostly going to be used in a browser environment where we want to take all of our packages that we require and bundle them into a single file. That's the awesome thing about Webpack. But that's not so awesome when we are on the server. For example, if I came in here to our server.js and I said something silly like, I don't know what to include here. Webpack will try to shim out common modules, but let's say I tried to pull in, what's a module that I can just load in just to show you guys what I'm talking about? I think Lodash is in here somewhere. Yeah, there we go. Lodash got imported because it was a dependency of one of our other dependencies. So let's try to load Lodash. Let's say import Lodash from Lodash, right? And then let's say, or import, generally it's import underscore from Lodash is what you would do. And then let's say const r equals 1, 2, 3, 4, and then console log Lodash dot filter r a goes into a smaller than 5. Whatever, just arbitrary Lodash code. Now let's go ahead and run this again, run our Webpack. So let's run Webpack. And you'll notice that, first of all, it took a little bit more time. This took 1.5 seconds before, but now it's taking 2.5 seconds. Also, look at the file sizes. Main was 1.82 kilobytes, but now it's 497 kilobytes. What's going on here? Well, look, Webpack is just doing what Webpack does. If I open up our build server.js, all of a sudden this file is huge. Because Webpack saw that we were requesting Lodash, and it imported it into the bundle, but that's not what we want on the server. Now, with Lodash, it should work. We shouldn't get any problems with including Lodash in, and we don't. We don't have any issues with using Lodash as a module that's been included, but not all Node modules will behave so nicely. A lot of Node modules they want to be loaded out of the Node modules folder. They do not want to be bundled into the file. What we have to do is we have to tell Webpack, if the server code is requesting a Node module, do not import it. So how do we do that? Well, it's actually fairly straightforward. Unfortunately, there's no built-in option to do it. Maybe in Webpack 2 there will be. I hope so. Webpack 2 is right around the corner. But we can kind of hack it in. We can hack it in by looping through all of the node modules folders and saying and telling Webpack, if you see any server code requesting this node module, then go ahead and use a normal require. Do not try to bring that module into the bundle. This will reduce the size of our server code substantially. It'll reduce the amount of time it takes to compile substantially, and it'll prevent potential issues where node modules do not play well with Webpack. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to import, in my Webpack server config, I'm going to import another module. I'm going to say fs equals require fs. And then I'm going to say, const node modules equals fs read dir sync, or read dir with the lowercase d, sync, passing in /node modules. And then I'm going to say .filter, d goes into d does not equal .bin. So I'm saying, go ahead and give me a list of all of these folders and node modules, but ignore the bin folder. All right? Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to write a function called ignore node modules that takes in a context, a request, and a callback. Don't worry too much about these parameters. This is an internal Webpack sort of thing. This function is going to be called by Webpack whenever a module is trying to be loaded, and it's going to give us an opportunity to either tell Webpack, no, do not include this in the bundle, or yes, please do include this in the bundle. I'm going to say if request at 0 equals dot, then return callback. So what am I doing here? I'm saying if somebody did something like this, import chat module from / components chat, right? So if we're trying to import a module and we're doing /, meaning we were wanting to import it relative to us, then we're fine with it being included in the bundle. So we're just simply returning callback and we're invoking callback. So that by returning callback, invoking the callback, that will make it so Webpack doesn't do anything different. It will include that module in the bundle. Then I'm going to say const module equals request dot split / at 0. So what am I doing there? Well, let's say I did something like this. Import subject from rxjs subject. I actually forget where that folder is located, but this is just an example. So what if I did this? What if I said import module / and then something inside that module where, well, I only want that first part. I only want to know if this first part is a node module or not. So that's what I'm doing here. And then I'm going to say if node modules, index of module does not equal -1, then return callback null common JS space plus request. Otherwise, return a callback. All right, so what's going on here? Well, we're simply saying, hey, go ahead and ignore relative paths. All right, that's the first thing. Next, go ahead and get the module name. So the first thing before the /. And if it was found as a folder within the node modules folder, then append on the common JS. So append on common JS space. And what that'll tell Webpack to do is that'll say, don't include this in the bundle. Instead, make a normal require so that we require it out of the node modules. All right, let's go ahead and see this in action. I'm going to clear out these two lines. To use this function, which ESLin's yelling at me because I haven't used it yet, scroll down to your Webpack config, and it doesn't matter where you put this, but I like putting this after the modules. Type in externals, : and then as an array, our function. And that's all you have to do. That will hook in this function with Webpack. And whenever Webpack sees a module, it'll invoke this. And this lets us either determine if something is a external module or not. And if it is an external module, how do we want to load it? In this example, we want to load it with common JS. We might want to load it with the CDN or AMD or something like that. But in this case, we're using common JS because that's obviously our module format in Node. So I'll scroll through this code real fast. Those are our node modules that we get out of the folder. We create our ignore modules function, and then there's our config. So let's go and see if this works. I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to say node modules bin webpack config webpack server, and let's see if, yep, it worked. Check that out. Our server.js is now 2.21 kilobytes. So what exactly happened to Lodash? Well, we can always pop in. Don't be afraid of Webpack output. It does look a little nasty, but you get used to it. So what did it do to Lodash? I'm going to hit Control F and type in Lodash. And what it did is it says Lodash is Webpack require of 2. So what is that? Well, let's go find module number 2. Webpack requires an internal Webpack function, and it takes in a number, and that number represents the module, the internal Webpack ID of the module. Now, fortunately, Webpack's output includes comments on which modules are which. So when we require in Lodash, what happens? What is module number 2? Well, let's scroll down. Module number 2 is simply module exports equals require Lodash. So what happened is this is sort of a shim. You can think of it like a shim. What's happening is it's still a Webpack module, but all it's doing is it's invoking the nodejs require method. All right. So again, I know that some of this might seem like a little kind of annoying, and it is kind of annoying, but once you do it once, you don't have to do it again. And with that, I think in the next video, we will finish up our Webpack server configuration by creating a production configuration, as well as installing source map support. Because right now, we don't have source map support yet. We do have this source map, but if I come into the server and say throw new error bleh, right? And I come up here and I say, and I build it. Build it first. Remember to build it first. Oh, hold on. Oh, ESLint is complaining that this code isn't reachable. Yeah, go away, ESLint. Now it's complaining that's not defined. Again, ESLint forces you to clean up your code. That's why I like it so much. Anyway, now if we type in node build server, we'll get an error. But look at the stack trace. Stack trace is nuts. It's specifically saying the error happened on build server.js 52. Well, that's not where it actually happened. Well, you could say it happened there. If I go to server.js and look at line 52, well, that's the error. But in the next video, we're going to see how we can load up the source maps. So we'll see you guys then.